Hello, world. Welcome to Rex Arthur TV. This is the Rex Arthur Show, where we discuss LGBTQ issues with an LGBTQ approach and an LGBTQ perspective in an LGBTQ plus planet, where each and every one of us belongs to one or two letters in the 10-letter sexual alphabet. And today we are going to do a Brexit special because of what is happening in Britain and is affecting the world economically. And of course, some people will say, "Wow, well, why should it affect the world economically when Britain is just leaving EU?" I mean, news would be EU collapsing. Well, it's for one simple reason: Brexit can be so bad it can even lead to the collapse of Britain. I mean, the collapse of EU. That's why EU should be very, very careful. They should understand that this is a serious game, because if Britain leaves EU, there is a danger that there will be a domino effect in Europe, and that European countries will also say, hey, why do we need to stay in the EU? And then they will leave EU, and then EU collapses. Everybody, because you see, Article 50 can be invoked by any country. Yes, any country can invoke it. It's not only Britain. Any country in the EU can invoke Article 50 at any time. All they have to do is have a referendum, and people say we've had enough of EU. That's why EU is not even a stable union, because you can leave it anytime. So don't think that just because Britain has left, EU will now remain united. Next year, another country can just decide we are tired of EU, because life is becoming hard economically. And that's the problem of the EU infrastructure. The EU infrastructure is not like the United States of America infrastructure. America, we're going to look at that just quickly right now because it has come to my mind. Look at America. Look at America leaving the American Union. Let's look at secession in the United States. In context of the United States, secession primarily refers to the voluntary withdrawal of one more state from the union that constitutes the United States. Threats and aspirations to secede from the United States or arguments justifying secession have been a feature of the country's politics almost since its birth. Can you imagine? So what you need to understand, withdrawal from a union begins the moment the union has begun. Even a marriage, yes, the moment you marry someone, that's the time you will also can divorce that person. And the longer you stay together, the longer the union exists. But the potential to withdraw is forever there. You see, that's why the marriage vows are very funny, because they say in sickness and in health, till death do us part. For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and death, till death do us part. But it's not true, because people divorce. Even if they say those vows, they divorce. There's a potential to withdraw, because there's something that can happen in a marriage that is so big that causes divorce. And this is what's happening in EU and can happen in America. You see, some have argued for secession as a constitutional right, and others as from a natural right of revolution. In Texas versus White, the United States Supreme Court ruled unilateral secession unconstitutional. So this is a very important case to understand. This is what I'm telling you. In America, secession is unconstitutional, while commenting that revolution or consent of states could lead to a successful secession. So you see, that is the case that you need to understand. The Constitution does not directly mention secession. The most important statement about the American Constitution when it comes to withdrawal. But the EU Constitution mentions withdrawal directly. It's Article 50. So that mention, in my view, made the EU a suicidal union, because it is a temptation. It was a very direct temptation to the member states of the EU that they can leave the EU. The American Constitution has no temptation. So, and that was decided in Texas versus White. So it will take a very big event in America for those states to divide. They can't secede just like that. And this was in 1868. And you see, Texas had become part of an indestructible union composed of indestructible states. In practical terms, this meant that Texas has never seceded from the United States. However, the court's decision recognized some possibility of the divisibility through revolution or through consent of the states. So, where states come and agree that we are leaving the US, then it could be possible to divide the United States. Or where there is a revolution, a military revolution, then the United States, they can be secession. Because, like, let's say Texas revolts against the federal government. And then Texas now will create a border and protect Texas from the US federal government. Yes, that one, they have done a revolution. They have toppled the federal constitution and declared that Texas now, let's try and do the accent, we are not part of the United States of America. And they even change their constitution to declare that, and then they get their military to guard Texas from attack from the United States federal government. That is when the court says there's a possibility of division, divisibility, and therefore a possibility of secession. But other than that, you've just heard what the guy has said. The judge said, indestructible union. So what does this mean? The EU is a destructible union. That's what I've said. It's a suicidal union because they allowed people to leave it. They allowed states. Well, it's not destructible. It's liberal. Let's just call it liberal. They have given you freedom to leave the union, and this is what has happened in Britain. Now, the most important. Now, I liked a very good infographic from CNN, and we want to go through it because of what happened yesterday in Britain. These guys, Britain, I don't know if we're going to get it very easily. No deal, Brexit still possible even if lawmakers reject it. Yes, this is what we said. The only thing that can stop a no deal Brexit is, what do you call it? A no deal Brexit is if they were to hold a second referendum. Because we're going to see in the video that Steve Fry did that people actually do not actually have changed their views about Brexit, and they want to stay in EU. So we're going to see that video. But first I want us to look at the infographic to tell us what is happening in Britain right now. Yeah, so the most important vote was yesterday's. And yesterday's vote was because yesterday's vote was whether to vote for a no deal Brexit or a deal Brexit. So Theresa May, the Prime Minister of UK, presented her deal, and she even revamped it. And what happened is, well, they said, no, we don't want that deal. So this is the infographic, very beautiful infographic by CNN. So yesterday, March 12th, Parliament voted on May's deal. And I love this infographic because thanks to AI, we are now living in outcome-based decisions. That if you decide this, in the past we used to say choices have consequences, but choices have consequences that have consequences that have consequences that have consequences. Basically, we live a life of consequences. And the word consequence means with movement. You see, when you do something today, it will affect your tomorrow. That will affect your other tomorrow. That will affect the next tomorrow. That will affect the next tomorrow. That will affect the next tomorrow. That is life. A consequence. Your parents had sex, gave birth, you were conceived, that led to your birth, and then led to your growth, and then led to your adulthood, and then you see everything is a sequence, and so consequences. That's why I always tell people choices are biological. Yes. There is no artificial choice, because choice comes from the mind. You make your mind. I've got my mind made up. I've made up my mind. I've decided. So the problem we have in the world is many people think the mind is artificial. It's not artificial, it's biological. Yes, it's you can't think without your brain. So when you think, it's a biological process. When you choose, it's biological. It's not artificial. Choice is natural. So every choice you make in life has a consequence. Even if you choose to sit down and do nothing, there is a consequence. You'll grow fat. Yes. You won't get money. It's as simple as that. So I'm happy with AI because it has helped us to arrange our brain. Now we know how to make decisions. All you do these days, whenever I make decisions, I look for the outcomes. What will this decision lead to? List them. There are even 1 billion outcomes. More than 1 billion outcomes from one decision you make every day. That's what you need to understand. So now look at the infographic. These are the Brexit scenarios, which can also be called the Brexit outcomes. So March 12th, Parliament votes on May's deal. And that was yesterday. Now, if it won, let's go to the outcome of winning. If the Parliament voted yes to May's deal, the date we are supposed to look at right now is March 29th. If the deal won, it didn't win, but if it won, the most important date in this month is March 29th, because UK will leave the EU and the transition period begins. So that is the end of that cycle. Are you seeing that outcome? Very short if the deal won. but the deal lost. So what is happening? The next important date is today, March 13th. Now there's another vote because the deal lost. Now Parliament is going to either vote on no deal, and if it wins, if they say yes to no deal, then we are back to March 29th. So today we're going to know whether March 29th is still the important day in Britain. And because UK leaves the EU without a deal. The other one, if the deal won, UK would have left with a deal, and there would be a transition process based on that deal. But now that the deal is gone, UK will leave EU without a deal. And there's another very beautiful infographic I've seen, and I'll show it to you what that means. UK leaving without a deal. And then, but if they say no to no deal Brexit, the most important date is going to be March 14th, which means Parliament now will vote on delaying Brexit, because they have said, no, we don't want a Brexit without a deal. And that would mean that they are trying to say Brexit needs a deal, but your deal is not good. May's deal, it's still not good. We don't like it. So let's get a better deal. So now Parliament is going to say on March 14th, that's tomorrow, that let's delay Brexit. Now, if they say, yes, let's delay Brexit, then the most important date is not 29th of March, but 21st of March, which will be where Prime Minister May going to request EU to delay Brexit. And then EU will have to decide whether it will say yes or no. Now, are you seeing the question marks? It is what it means. Nobody knows where the process will go. So to me, I prefer this one, because this one brings the ball back to EU, because EU will have to decide whether they will delay Brexit. But I have a feeling EU is very tired with the whole scenario, and they will just say, no, we've had enough, it's over, you guys had enough years. That's what our document states, that if there's no deal, then you will leave the EU without a deal. And I'll show you the implications of that. But if EU says yes to delay, it means there's something they want from UK. So this is the beauty of this outcome, is that EU will have to think, how important is Britain to us? And are we going to create a special relationship with Britain? That is what's happening. Now, if the Parliament votes no on delaying Brexit, then it is back to March 29th, and Britain will leave the Union without a deal. So the only outcome that has salvation is this one, whereby tomorrow, March 14th, that is if Parliament votes to delay Brexit. How will they vote to delay Brexit? By voting against a no deal Brexit. But it's very hard. My estimation is that they will go this way of winning. They will agree to a no deal Brexit, which is also very dangerous. But thanks to quantum, we're also going to do a video called Quantum Everything. Now we can quantize everything. It's beautiful. So when you look at the Parliament of UK, the votes of yesterday If you quantize them, quantum politics, look at how many people voted for May. And the parties that did that, I don't know if there's any website that has done that, how they voted. UK Parliament. Let's look at that from the. A majority of MPs voted against approving for the purpose blah 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 the withdrawal agreement. Let's see if it can give us the list of MPs. So that is the number. Now look at that. Blue is for the Conservative Party. Now 242 MPs voted yes, they supported May. And 391 MPs did not. And these blues are conservatives. So this, if May is a quantum politician, she will know who is rebelling against her. Because ideally, these are people who should be with May. These are her party, but they're not with her. And then you find these Labour people who supported May. So Labour has a smaller revolt than the Conservative Party. There's a big revolt in the Conservative Party. Now, it's going to be a very interesting game. My goodness. It's going to be a very interesting game. Now, then all of these are Labour and the Liberal Dems. And there you are. You see Conservative, Conservative, Conservative. Labour, Independents. The grey color is Independents. So look at the Conservatives. Majority of the Conservatives supported May. So May should be happy. She has a team. But the problem is she has rebellion. Look at these Conservatives. John Barron, Guto Beb. All of these ones. Rehman Chishti, Christopher Chope. All of these are... So it's a very beautiful infographic here. And that's quantum politics for you. So now what's going to happen is today you will look at this infographic changing, because these guys here who voted no are the ones who are going to vote for a no-deal Brexit. That's what you need to know. And then now the war is going to be here. How many of these MPs are liars? If they are liars, they will join these ones, these Conservative MPs, they will join them in voting for a no-deal Brexit. But if they are loyal to Theresa May, they will vote for they will vote against a no-deal Brexit. So it could be, so the war is going to be with Labour, because if Labour, the ball is in Labour's court. If they want a no-deal Brexit, which they don't, Labour actually helped Theresa May get a deal. So they want a deal Brexit. So what will happen is Labour may come to the side of these A's and you will see no deal Brexit defeated. Good. Now let's finish. There's another one I want us to look at, and it's in Twitter. It's a friend of mine. I like studying his stuff. Femi Sori. And Femi Sori posted a very nice infographic showing you what is going to happen if Femi Sori was showing a very nice infographic that was going to happen to Britain if it leaves the EU without a deal. This is the infographic. Very nice one. Now, in this infographic, it's showing the future relationship Britain will have with EU. So this is no deal. Now, this is EU. Now, if UK leaves the EU, it will be like Norway and Finland, and I don't know this other country here. So Norway have an arrangement. So if UK would have stayed here, it could leave the EU and then stay here in the second stair, away from EU, one stair away from EU, and that means no ECJ jurisdiction, no free movement, no substantial financial contribution, and regulatory autonomy. Now, if Britain doesn't like that, it says, no, we really want to be away from you, so they go to the third stair, and the third stair is with Switzerland. And here, there is no free movement, no substantial financial contribution to the EU, but there is regulatory autonomy. So Britain had a chance of making an agreement similar to that Switzerland has made with EU. Then they said, no, we don't want that. Okay, so then they have this other country. I don't know what it looks like. Sorry about, I have forgotten my flags. But that looks like an Eastern European country, similar to Ukraine. UK red lines, no ECJ jurisdiction and regulatory, but they'll have regulatory autonomy. So this means the European Court of Justice will have has no rule in this country. So Britain would have been here, but it says no, we don't want that. So it goes to the fourth stair, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fourth stair is where Turkey is. Turkey is has the relationship between Turkey and the EU is based on an independent trade policy. So this is what UK could have done, and its relationship to EU would be similar to that of Turkey to the EU. But they said no. So it then leads you, when you don't have a trade policy, then you will become like Canada and South Korea, which just trade very well with EU more than the World Trade Organization. But Britain said, no, we don't want that. And so no deal EU, no deal Brexit means that Britain will trade with EU under the World Trade Organization, and it will not need any trade agreement with EU. And this is, look at the distance. Britain used to be here. Now it will be here, very far away from EU. And the only thing that will make them connect with EU is the World Trade Organization. Let me tell you, friends, this is a big story, because if Britain succeeds, that's the end of EU. Yes. If Britain succeeds, that's the end of EU. But if Britain fails, that's the end of Britain. It's a very heated game of Russian roulette. So that's the future relationship of Britain. If Britain today votes for no deal Brexit. So today is also a very important day in the calendar of Britain. Because if they vote for no deal Brexit, that's it. Tomorrow means nothing. But if they don't vote for no deal Brexit, then tomorrow is everything. Because now they will delay Brexit and the ball goes back to EU. Okay, so now let's finish this video with a very nice video from our great gay hero, Steve Fry. And he did a very nice video, and I want us to analyze it, and then we'll be done.
Are nationalists really just racists and fascists? Or are globalists simply elitist corporate sellouts? There are some dark truths, some strange surprises, and major threats lurking in the shadows.
Good. So Steve Fry did a very nice video. Let's see how many people liked it. 4,200 and 920 didn't like it. So let's see what guys said. Evidence in this one was a little disconnected from the thesis. So someone is attacking Steve. Of course, yeah, so basically this is a video about, okay, the comments are not that loaded. um, this is a video about the war between globalists versus nationalists, and the facts and the illusions and the hidden threats. Now, this people need to understand something. The year 2016 was the strongest and most important year in the century so far. Reason: Britain voted to leave the EU, and Donald Trump became president of America. Donald Trump is a nationalist, even he said it, and Britain's vote to leave EU was a nationalistic vote. The nationalists won in the year 2016. That's what you need to understand. The world before, in the Obama era, the world was globalist. And in the EU era, before Brexit, it was a globalist world. But something happened, and this is why I like this video. Globalists, people think globalists are not nationalists, and I think I've written an article about this. Yes, I did, in my legal blog. I wrote about it. But I can't go back there now. I mean, it will take a lot of time. So, and I was saying that, you see, a globalist is not necessarily anti-nationalist. You can be a nationalist and a globalist. That's what even Steve Fry is saying about Trump. That Trump is actually a globalist because he has hotels all over the world. He's friends with Russia. He doesn't say that he likes Putin. You see, he's a very international man. And so what he's trying to say, and what we are seeing, that a globalist can be a nationalist. And if a globalist can be a nationalist, then a nationalist can be a globalist. That's what you need to know. Yes, quantum philosophy. And you measure the amount of globalism in a politician. So, like, Trump is not a pure nationalist. Yes, he's not a pure nationalist. He's a mixture. He has some globalism in him, but majority of his mind and psyche is nationalistic. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say this, that contrary to belief, the globalists are just nationalists who connect with other nationalists and have a big market called globalism. Like, let's look at Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has reach in every country of the world. That's a globalist company. It's an international company because it is in every country in the world. But the Chinese, not the Chinese, but let's pick another thing like Cosmos, Roscosmos, the Russian NASA organization, only works in Russia. The BBC, if you know BBC works in Britain, but the BBC World Service is a global entity because it works all over the world. Every country in the world can access that BBC. But this BBC you can't access. It's only for Britain. Just like Roscosmos is a space agency that only works in Russia. So it is not a global entity. So that's the war that is really happening, is that there is a government. Governments are not able to trust the globalist entities like companies. Facebook is a globalist entity. It's all over the world. Google is all over the world. Those are globalist entities. So those ones, they are mightier than governments of the world. Governments are nationalistic. They are nationalistic. So that's what you need to understand, is the war. And this came because of social media. Social media changed the world. And these are the political effects of social media. Because social media is a global platform, and people are able to discuss politics of any country in any country. You can discuss about, I'm talking about Britain in Africa. That's what social media has done. It never happened 20, 30 years ago. It could never happen. Now it's happening. So I'm a globalist entity because I can discuss about any country in any country. That is a problem to a national government because they can't catch me and tell me that, hey, what are you saying? Because I'm not in your country. So it's a very, the tussle we are having is what technology did to the world. Technology broke the ceiling. Yes, there are no more limits. There are no borders. There is nothing like borders. It's gone. Gone. Intelligence has been changed. It's gone. Everybody can know anything about anyone and anything, anywhere. So why do you need intelligence? Yes, when you can know something. You see, that's what's happening. So that's the importance of this video, to show you that globalism and versus nationalism is just super nationalists fighting minor nationalists. The minor nationalists are the nationalists that are limited by their government and their country. But the super nationalists are nationalists who have entities in other nations, like Facebook, Coca-Cola, anything that can be watched anywhere in the world, or very many countries. Those are international. That's why the other term for a globalist is an internationalist, meaning more nations, not just one nation. A nationalist is a monocultural person, but a globalist is a multicultural person. All right.
Europe is experiencing the biggest surge in nationalist voting since World War II. In the UK, 70% of those who strongly identify are nationalist voting, or are globalists simply elitist corporate surprises and major threats lurking in the shadows. Europe is experiencing the biggest surge in
So Europe is experiencing the biggest surge in nationalist sentiment. In 2004, it was 11.7%, then it shot to 12.5%, then in 2014 it went to 20.3%. This, in my estimation, is the sign that we are going to have World War III one day. It's going to happen because the more people become nationalistic, the more they distrust other countries. And the more they distrust other countries, the more war comes to be in mind. So that's why I'm telling you, 2016 was the saddest year because the world went back to nationalism. the world was supposed to go on to globalism, but it was bound to happen, because even if the world remained in globalism, we were still going to war. So what you need to understand is, it was just either outcome was still going to lead to war. If the world remained globalist, it was still going to fight, because the national governments have not become global. What we were supposed to do is to globalize national governments. And I have already written about this, and I said, when I said that to globalize a national government, whenever you make programs, UN was supposed to be a very forceful global machine, in the sense that whenever they have the UN General Assembly, they should pass policies that affect every country immediately. Like when you want to register persons, identity card system, it's the UN that should roll out a system, and every country is to have the database of every country. When you have such a system, passports die. Because I can go to Nicaragua, because Nicaragua has my biometrics. So when I hit the biometric machine, my name appears in Nicaragua, and they know that I've arrived. When I go to Grenada, Grenada has the database of my home country. And so they say, oh, you've come. How is Kenya? How is Africa? And I say, it's fine. Yes, we can see you. Okay, and we have your details. You even went to Australia a few years ago, and you stayed there for 3 weeks. Wow, that's nice. So you're in Nicaragua. You're welcome. So it's the end of visa when national governments have the database of all national governments. That's my dream. I dream of such a time whereby we are so global that every country trusts every country. That's what we should have. But a nationalistic world, there is no trust. So the national database only belongs to the nation. And so, because it belongs to the nation and not to the world, this is why when I go to Tanzania, Tanzania doesn't know me. So, because it doesn't know me, it will say, please, you need a visa before we can let you in, because we want to know who is this person coming. We don't know you, meaning we don't have data. So we need data, and they get the data from your home country to know who you are. But that can change if every government has the database of every government. And that's globalization of national governments. And that is my answer to quell these arguments we are having. We are wasting time killing each other because we are on the right left. We are just going to die. They will just go to war. Because nationalism, World War I was because of nationalism. World War II was because of nationalism. Yes. That's what you need to understand. Countries made deals to fight other countries. Then in World War II, countries again made deals to fight other countries because Germany, through Hitler, wanted to finish the Jewish nation, which was a nation. It was a nationalist. Israel is also nationalist. Yes, Zionism is nationalism. So you need to understand, we are all nationalistic because we come from nations. Don't even go to Africa. It's worse. if you make Africans nationalistic, that's the end of Africa. People think Africa has 52 nations. No. It has over 2,000 nations. Africa. 2,000 nations. So that's what you need to understand is the problem. Okay, let's go on. So I was just trying to show you, look at how nationalism is rising. 20% 2014. Disaster.
Voting since World War II. Identifies English rather than British, voted for Britain to leave the EU. And in one alarming study, 28% of those who identify as English rather than British showed blatant racism. They answered yes to questions like, do you agree that some races are born less intelligent or less hard-working than others? President Trump has often echoed these views. He said there were fine people at a white nationalist rally and tried to avoid disavowing a former Ku Klux Klan leader.
KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage. Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know.
There can be no doubt.
I am the least racist person.
Nationalist, he appeals to racists and those who feel left behind by globalization.
America was built by and for the white Christian people of this nation.
I will be Donald Trump's most loyal advocate.
For decades, the top 1% have grown richer, leaving the bottom 50% behind. 43% of Americans say they identify first as global citizens.
A globalist is a person that wants the globe to do well, not caring about our country so much.
But things...
Okay, there's so much that has gone through. I can't go through everything. You will go and watch the video by yourself. That's in what's it called? Pindex. You go and watch it. But I wanted to stop on what Trump said. Trump said something he defined a globalist. And that's another thing you need to understand. We are in a definition crisis. Because we have 7 billion people. So that means we have 7 billion definitions of one thing. Now, what we do as a world, we unite to one definition. Even though we are 7 billion, we accept that the definition of this is this. But the problem of political concepts and philosophical concepts, they are diverse definitions. And that's what you need to do. So understand the world. That's why the world is divided. It will be forever divided because some people will like your definition, others won't like your definition. So, guys, enjoy the world. We will forever be fighting each other. If you thought we were going to be united until the aliens or gods that rule the world come and tell us now it's over. We are tired. We've seen enough of the dog show. But if they don't come down, too bad. We will be forever. We'll be forever fighting each other. So now, Donald Trump just said something very important. That for him, a globalist is somebody who cares about the whole world, but doesn't care about the nation, the country, that much. And that's a bit... let's do quantum assessment. He is like 49% right and 51% wrong. 49% right because, of course, when you're a global guy, you have your interests that may not fit the interests of the country. But that doesn't mean, and that's where now he's 51% wrong, it doesn't mean that a globalist entity cannot agree with a country's interests. Like, let's say you are a country and you need Coca-Cola to build a plant. Why are you agreeing with a global entity if you are a nationalistic government. I mean, why don't you make your own soda as a country? There are some countries which they wouldn't want Coca-Cola. So they would say, no, Coca-Cola, we don't want you because you guys have made too much money off the backs of many people. So we have our own soda. Now, that is what you call, that's what you call, that's the definition Trump is holding. To him, he believes that the globalist companies do not have the interests of the country. But if a country wants to employ people and they get Coca-Cola says, we want to put a plant in your country, are you going to say no to Coca-Cola? Of course not. You will agree. So that's where I'm saying it's not right to say that globalists forever dislike the interests of a country. No, it is just an issue of wavelength agreement, wavelength alignment, whereby if you're a country that needs a plant, a Coca-Cola plant, you will say yes to the globalist, and that makes you, and the globalist is also saying yes to the country because the country wants the Coca-Cola plant. So that's what Trump needs to understand, that we are one. It's just a weird union we have, because the globalist helps the nation and the nation helps the globalist, because when Coca-Cola now builds a plant, it is going to increase its supply of sodas, which will be sold all over the world, and then the nation gets employees who will now be able to pay taxes. So it's a win-win situation. That's why we have investment. Investment is very important because it is the bridge between the big entities and the small entities. In fact, how to understand the globalist issue and the nationalist, don't look at it as a war. Look at it as a situation, as a hierarchy. What we mean by hierarchy is that a globalist entity is bigger than a nationalist entity. It is a fact. It is a fact. So that's not a war. I mean, look at boxing. Heavyweights don't fight featherweights because it's a fact. It's scientifically, naturally, the heavyweight can even kill the featherweight. Yes, he can kill the featherweight. So it's not because of that they can't fight each other. So the globalist entity is so big, it cannot even be in a war with a nationalist entity. So what do? They make agreements. That's why we have business. Actually, business is the opposite of war. Yes. Business is the opposite of war. That's why when a country goes to war, they have Trade with the Enemy Act, legislation. Yes. Trade with the enemy. Why is it? Because when there's war, you can't trade. So what does this mean? When there is no war, you trade. As simple as that. When there is war, you don't trade. When there is no war, you trade. So what should the world be fighting for? Trade. That's what you do. And I believe America should have taken a dominative role, in the sense of through trade. Go and make trade agreements with every country. Put American plants in other countries. Yes, I know it's competition but look, there are things America has that very many countries don't have. So those companies in America can go and build the plants in those countries that are able. You see, you have to be in the same wavelength, that they have the same financial muscle, more or less the same. Because you don't go and plant and put a very a plant that makes luxurious goods in a country like Chad, where people have a very low income, they will not. Their problem is not luxurious goods; it is necessities. So if you are going to put a plant there, put one that is going to help the necessities of the people. Okay, so I just wanted to show you Trump's definition of a globalist was not. It was the negative definition. Another thing you need to know about quantum English and quantum everything is that is that with quantum English, when you see your definition, quantum English, meaning that we can even study the polarity of your definition. So his definition of a globalist is very negative. Is negative because he doesn't support globalism. But mine is positive because I'm saying I'm not looking at where the interests clash. I'm looking at where the interests agree. That is my globalism. And like where Coca-Cola goes to a country and that country needs to give jobs to people. So Coca-Cola says we are ready to build a plant. Give us land. Give us some space. We put up the plant and we hire people. The country says yes. That's done. So that is positive globalism. And then there's also negative globalism, whereby the interests of the globalist are not necessarily the interests of the country. So that's what you need to understand. Now, I always tell human beings, positive is part, positive and negative are one. Polarity. When you are bipolar, it's in one brain. You don't have the brain outside, that the one that the other polar side is outside and then the other one is inside. No, one brain that is bipolar. So life is, and now even life is no longer bipolar, we're actually multipolar. So we have so many polarities: north, east, west, positive, negative, neutral, all of those. And back to quantum science, quantum everything. Quantum, you can quantize positivity. You're 68% positive about something and 42% positive about something. 32% positive about something. I mean, negative. You see? You can measure the polarity of everything you believe in. All right, let's go on.
You are sending coded language or a dog whistle to some Americans out there that what you really mean is that you're a white nationalist.
I never even heard that. I cannot imagine that. You mean I say I'm a nationalist? No, I never heard that theory about being a nationalist. I've heard them all.
Without global solutions, true threats grow unchallenged. A study found that 47% of US jobs were at high risk of automation over the next 10 to 20 years.
As sure as you're sitting there, we are going to bring our jobs back into this country for the first time.
In fact, automation already accounts for most US manufacturing job losses.
It's not the Mexicans or Chinese who will take the jobs from the people in Pennsylvania. It's the robots and algorithms. I was struck that certainly Trump did not even attempt to frighten people by saying the robots will take your jobs. It made me afraid because in the mainstream political system and among the general public, people are just unaware.
Global collaboration.
Yeah, so Yuval is bringing a new dynamic to the argument. And the dynamic is that, and it's a very important, in fact, I've missed Yuval. He has done enough talking now and has written his books. But Yuval has brought the aspect of AI and technology that is replacing human jobs. So he's shocked that Trump is concerned about nationals coming to the country. I mean, immigrants coming to the country, yet he should be concerned about AI that is replacing the jobs of humans in America. You see, that's why I support Andrew Yang, even though I don't know if he's going to make it. I hope he does, but it's very hard. He has to build a party, very big party. He needs money. He's joking. If you want to win an election, you got to have the mullah. Don't you dare do politics without money. You won't go anywhere. You need a machine. And because his ideas are good, but he doesn't have a machine. His idea is to give universal basic income. Everybody should receive money from the government, whether you have a job or not. And it's not just little money, $1,000 onwards. Yes, every month. What does that do? It increases the purchasing power of the consumer, which makes the economy improve, because companies' profit will go high because there's profit, and then they will pay taxes very well to the government because they have made a profit. So that's what you need to understand. I support I support UBI, and I wish Trump listened to that. But you see, Andrew Yang is coming from the progressive side of life, whereby AI is replacing jobs. So he's answering the problem of AI. But Trump is a bit of a retrogressive. He's not looking at technology. He's looking at politics, which is a bit retrogressive, because politics is very old school. The political philosophy of today is based on history. It's based on old school thinking, that foreigners are coming and they are not good. They'll replace us. You see, that is a very nationalistic way of thinking of the world. Actually, nationalists, most of them are retrogressive, because progress is every national matters. If you're a progressive, believe you me, racism is nothing. You have passed racism. You are not racist. Every human matters. Black, white, in the middle, whatever. Every gender matters. You see, what matters to a humanist is not your race. Even if I know you're black or white, but that's not what I want. Why I want you. I know you're gay or straight, but that's not why I want you. I want you because of what you can do. You have something special. That's where the world should be. And that's where Andrew Yang is. Look at Andrew Yang. He's an Asian American. He's not even thinking about the history of what happened in America. He's gone. He's focusing on the future. And that's what we should be. We should be futuristic. Forget about our ethnicities. Forget about our divisions. Let's build a better world. And that's what Yuval is saying. And Yuval is seeing a disaster. That if you don't deal... So what is Yuval's problem? Yuval is saying the problem is we should be globalist. Yes. And forget about the nationalistic problems like the ones of immigrants. That's what Trump is doing. He's focused on who is coming to the country. And then he's saying, we're going to produce jobs. But in the same America, there are companies that are investing in AI. And that investment in AI will cause Americans to lose their jobs. So that's what they are saying. There's an AI bubble coming very soon. Believe you me, a company wants to make profits. That's its goal. And it will be forever be like that. If AI gives a company more profits, that's it. That's it. They will not hire people because they want to make profit. So what's going to happen? People will lose their jobs. That's why Trump should not even destroy social welfare. In fact, he should talk to Andrew Yang and discuss how to help the people who will lose their jobs because of AI. It's coming. So that's what he needs to plan. Okay.
Is also crucial to America's national security. Autonomous weapons will reduce the boundaries to war by removing the political risks of military casualties. The US, Russia, and the UK are developing the weapons and blocking an international ban. And climate change is expected to force more than 100 million people into extreme poverty and cause 500,000 deaths per year. Scientists agree that humans are causing global warming, but Trump isn't convinced. While his efforts to bring back coal have failed, clean energy already employs 3 times as many workers. Tesla's Gigafactory will be the largest building in the world, employing 20,000 people. Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, tackles global problems with extraordinary results for America. His story also explains why immigrants create so many jobs.
Now, I like what Steve Fryer said there about Elon Musk. And Elon is solving, what did he say? A global problem. Global. Not a national problem. You see, the issue with Trump is that he's trying to solve national problems at the expense of global relations. That is what leads to war. That's why nationalism is a faster way to world war than globalism. You know what the world needs to understand? We are headed to consensus politics, business politics, not political politics, business politics, business and philosophical politics. That's why when the UN was created, they have a parliament called the UNGA. It's a very quasi-parliament, but it should be strengthened so that whenever there are decisions, governments go and make the decisions there. Yes, the UN representative in the UNGA should be very important because they go there to make global legislations, global laws. You see, this whole furor of LGBTQ legislation, it can be finished in a minute if the UN just makes a legislation and all countries agree to it, and they say that law is going to be applied in every country that is a member of the UN. Just one law. That's how it would be. I'm telling you. Do you know the world is global? Wake up. It's already global. Bitcoin belongs to which country? It has no nationality. You can go with Bitcoin. You live in America, you go to Europe, you can use it to buy. It's no nationality. That's where we are going. Currencies are disappearing. Look at Zimbabwe. They are making a mistake. They want to revert to their old currency. If I were them, take Bitcoin. Yeah, just get a digital currency that has no currency. Yes, teach the people Bitcoin and be the first country that is depending on Bitcoin, because it has no nationality. We have left the national currencies. So that's what you need to do about the currencies. That's what's happening in the world, is that that there's no more national currencies. Very soon there will be no more national legislation, because we will be a global world. We should be a global outfit, whereby we have one parliament of the world that makes decisions and laws. And then what you have, the members of parliament in the different nations are just representatives. administrative representatives, and they make laws for their small nations, but the global laws govern the nations of the world. We should even have a global constitution. So that's what I support. I'm a globalist. I support it. I know the world is going there. We're going there. We are going there. I'm laughing because Einstein said that after World War III, people will go back to fighting with sticks. They will not, because the war will be so bad that people will never think of fighting again. But we have a chance to stop that from happening, and that's through globalism. That's globalizing the whole world, all the nations.
Half of America's billion-dollar startups were founded by immigrants. One of Elon Musk's first jobs after emigrating from South Africa was...
So I had to get my train of thought back. So Elon Musk, what I like what he's done, he's solving global problems. You see, climate change is called global warming. It's affecting every nation in the world. There is no nation immune from global warming. If anything, I even call it World War III. But it's World War III. We are fighting the cosmos because the sun is burning. And, well, we can't blame the sun, though quantum cosmology can make us blame the sun to some extent, because the sun is also a star and it could have a period whereby it burns in intensity. But we are, again, back to quantum cosmology. Global warming is mostly the fault of human beings because we destroyed the atmosphere with industrial gases and industrial events for a very long period of time. You see, so majority, like you could say, back to quantum cosmology, 68% of global warming could be our effort, but 32% is the sun's intensity. The fact that the sun could be burning very hot, and then we have destroyed the atmosphere. So we are now really having the effects of global warming. And because both the sun and humans are actually attacking the world, the earth. Because you have to understand, the earth is also an entity on its own. And we are an entity as human beings. Because even in the Bible, they said there was no human when the earth was created. So we are another entity, and we can fight the earth. That's why even humans fight animals, because they are other entities. All right. So what I'm saying is Elon Musk solved a global problem. Then Steve Fry is for the argument that immigrants, which is right, is very right, immigrants help in making the economy grow. But guess what? Life is changing. These days, I don't even say immigrants, humans. Yes. Because when Amazon sells something, are they selling to immigrants? They are selling to human beings. So things are changing. Very soon we are going to we'll stop fighting each other. In the end, we will accept definitions. All right.
Shoveling steaming hot sand and goop from the boiler of a lumber mill. It was so hot, he said, if you stayed in there for more than 30 minutes, you'd get too hot and die. 30 people started with Musk. By Wednesday, 5 people were left, and by the end of the week, it was just Musk and 2 other men doing the work. Later, when Musk started his first internet company, he worked through the night so his computer could run the website during the day. After selling PayPal, he invested his fortune in exceptionally high-risk ventures.
Look at this electric car called the Tesla. Tell me about this car.
It's the only production electric car for sale in the United States of any kind.
Friends tried to put him off by sending him compilations of rockets exploding. If you want to make a small fortune in the rocket business, start with a large one, they said. Immigrants who leave their home country are comfortable taking risks, and as they struggle for a better life, they make life better for all of us. As for intelligence, studies show there is a group with enhanced cognitive abilities. 350,000 of them were tracked across 4 continents. They also showed increased height, lung capacity, and educational attainment. They were mixed-race children with diverse gene pools. Nature doesn't like borders. To overcome our challenges requires true patriotic and global thinking. Theresa May's...
Yeah, so I like that science, that guess what? So they are saying multiculturalism, Steve Fry is saying multiculturalism works because now the geeks of the world, majority of them are mixed race people. And that can only happen when your country is multicultural. So if you want to have these geeks in your economy, just mix up the cultures. Yes. And how do you do that? Open immigration policy. That's what I'm saying. Forget about white, black. These things are going. They will disappear. Even in Africa, it may be a black continent, but believe you me, we are so diverse. It hurts. Yes. And to make it even more diverse, bring Asians to Africa. Take Africans to Asia. Bring Europeans to Africa. Take Africans to Europe. Bring Latin Americans to Africa. Take Africans to Latin America. Bring Americans to Africa. Take Africans to America. Mix the whole world. And you'll see we will get a lot of creativity, a lot of diversity, a lot of union because we are now one world. That's what's going to happen. You see, South Africa is a very united country in diversity because they have mixed races. In fact, the biggest wars in South Africa are amongst the pure races. The black pure race fighting a white pure race. But the mixed people, they are always on the sidelines because they can't fight each other. If you fight your mother is black, your father is white. Now if you fight a black person, then it means you're killing your mother. If you fight your father, then it means you're killing a white person. So you just say, what the heck, I can't do that. And that's what happens when you have a multicultural society. So multiculturalism hasn't failed. Though it has failed for one reason, it has not failed. What you need to understand about human beings, we are natural beings. So because we are natural beings, we are animals. Animals tend to be monocultural. You will never see a lion deciding to mount a pig. It can't happen. You will never see a dog planning to mount a cat, that it's time to, I love you, cat, come now. You will never see a dog do that to a cat. And it's because of the monocultural nature of animals, of which we are. We are animals. So unconsciously, we are monocultural. But consciously, we are multicultural. Now you have to understand something. Why do we go to school? We go to school to become conscious. You know, school is not a must. How many animals go to school? We are animals. We don't need school. Yes. If we are to live life, we don't need school. Animals don't go to school. They live. They are born. They live. They learn. Their school is life. Is whatever happens to them. They see how their parents behave. But we as humans, higher animals, we've worked hard to understand that if we live like animals, we will go nowhere. Do you know the lions of this world have lived in the same cycle forever of eating prey? Forever. But humans, because we are higher animals, we have understood the effects of war, and we have less wars now than it was in the past, because we've sat down to understand. Okay, maybe physical wars, not internal wars, but physical wars have reduced because we know the effect of physical wars. So what does that mean? Humans are more conscious than animals. Yes, because animals still repeat the same thing. For 1,000 years, the elephant has never changed its diet. Never changed its diet. But humans, look at humans, they are changing their diet. I'm a vegan, Oh my God, sugar is bad for my health. I'm not going to take sugar. You see, we are cognitive, so we change. We are always changing based on the knowledge we get. That's why Rex Arthur of 10 years ago, when I started my LGBTQ activism, is not the same Rex Arthur of today, because I've got new data that has changed how I live. You see, we're always getting data. So that's what you need to understand about the whole, whatever is happening in the world. Yes, I see a multicultural future. Yeah, that's all I see. And even if nationalists will still remain, of course you can't kill pure people, but neither can you kill mixed people. Yes, we live together, so we'll have to learn how to live together. And that's what's happening in Britain. All right.
Brexit deal is the worst of both worlds, and the country knows it. Vassal states do not go gently into the night. They rage. When Churchill spoke of Britain's finest hour, he married patriotism and globalism. Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed. But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States, including all that we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss. If Brexit passes without a public vote, it will be Britain's bungled hour. The rising resistance from both sides is the true fight to save Britain's identity. To help shatter the illusions with more videos on Brexit and other issues, visit us on
I like
Patreon.
the last.
Rising resistance from both sides is the true fight to save Britain's identity.
I like that last statement.
But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States, including all that we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss. If Brexit passes without a public vote, it will be Britain's bungled hour. The rising resistance from both sides is the true fight to save Britain's identity.
I like that statement. The fact that the two sides are fighting each other is to save Britain's identity, and that's the question of the whole issue of identity politics. This is what you need to understand. It's identity politics that is raging all over the world. And he has said that to save Britain's identity. So the question is, what is Britain's identity? That is what needs to be defined. That's why I said, as I finished the video, I think Britain's issue was they needed a constitution, a written constitution to define who a Briton is. Yes, that's my view. Because what is happening in Britain, there are two definitions of who a Briton is. And that's what has killed Britain. Because one group believes a Briton has to be like this, and it's the same thing happening in America. there's a group that believes Americans are white, the white nationalists, they believe that. Of course, there are not many. In fact, the only thing why they look so loud is because they have a president whom they like, Yes, you had David Duke. Hilarious that he loves Trump. So they feel, but they are small entity. Yes, they are small because the popular vote was won by the Democrats, who are multicultural. And then 2018, the midterm elections was won. The House was won by the Democrats. So there's a sign that the right wing is slithering away, because more and more multiculturalism is the reality in America. And in Britain, it's also the same. So, what is the identity of Britain now? It's anybody who comes to Britain, lives there, stays for enough years, and gets a citizenship. That's a Briton. Gone are the days that you have to be born there. Gone are the days. And that's what Britain needs to understand, that they have to understand that that's the problem, is the identity. Britain didn't want to lose its identity, and it believed it was going to lose its identity in the EU, because EU's plan is to become one country. Yeah, I'm telling you, one country. Even, in fact, my advice to EU was adopt English as your lingua franca. Teach it in schools. Kill the local languages as official languages. Let them be side dish languages, but English to be the main one, so that you can unite Europe. They said, no, we're going to stay with the languages. And that's the downfall of Europe, is because they refuse to surrender. They want to have their cake and eat it at the same time. Impossible. When you want to unite, the best way to unite is in language. Even the Tower of Babel, that's the whole lesson. We are supposed to be one language people. When you're one language person, even skin means nothing. Skin color. Look at America. Blacks are living with whites. Why? They speak one language. I always tell people, when the slaves went to America, they did not know English. And so what had to happen, the slave masters had to teach them English. Otherwise, they would go nowhere. So, thank those slaves. They were that sharp. They learned a language they never knew. And so that's what you need to understand. Language unites. Yes, because you see, when the slaves now knew English, it was very easy for the slave master to order them around. And that's how America became rich. It's because they were speaking one language with the slave. In fact, the African slaves were also slaves in Africa. And they spoke the same tongue with their African masters. That's why they were successful. Successful kingdoms in West Africa. Mansa Musa, he had a kingdom that had slaves, and it was a great kingdom. Why? The masters knew the same language with the slave. So it was very easy to order them around. And then in America, when the slaves now went to America, they had to learn the master's language so that they can work for their master. And that's what happened. And then in the end, the slave got to know English so well that they questioned the white man and said, excuse me, I now know your language. And I know you're oppressing me. It's time you stop doing that. And that's what happened. And then Martin Luther King used English to deliver the black people from oppression. Education, And then Obama became president with that English education in America. So language is uniting. It helps people to work together and to solve problems. So Europe is going to collapse because of that problem. They are not working to understand each other. Why is nationalism rising in Europe? It's because they are not united. They don't understand. They don't understand. It's a Tower of Babel. Do you know what happened in Babel? Very nice story. Whether it happened or not is not the issue. The principle is what matters. The principle from the story of Babel is, if you want to disunite people, give them languages. Diverse languages. And then put them together to work. They can't work. They can't. So the opposite of that story, if you want to do work with people of diverse races, give them one language. And you see what they will do. Black, white. Look at Andrew Yang. He's an Asian American. Is he speaking Chinese? He's speaking English. And what does this mean? Whites can listen to him and say, yes, you're saying truth. Obama spoke English. And he's a mixed race. So what happened? Whites also listened and liked Obama because he's speaking, I can understand him. Yes, so that's what you should understand. So that's what's happening in Europe and Britain. They are going through nationalistic hurricanes whereby people want to remain in their indigenous culture rather than globalize. Because what should be encouraged in Europe, let's learn English. Because France, when you work in a government office in France, the documents are in English. See, the problem of EU, I can talk about this forever, so sorry. The EU's problem is the laws are translated. So there's this game of, there's a group of people that don't want to learn English. That's what I'm saying. And that's the mistake of EU. Now, to conclude, if Brexit succeeds and Britain leaves EU and Britain does well without the EU, then that's the end of EU. So this is why you should watch what is happening in Britain this week. It's the most momentous week in the history of Europe. The 11th week of the year. Wow. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Rex Arthur TV.